What's up, YouTube, and welcome in, Bears fans. It is time to rejoice. Ben Johnson is officially the head coach of the Chicago Bears. The Bears land one of, if not the biggest head coaching candidate in the cycle. They finally make the big splash, get the big guy, get the number one person for a lot of people out there, and it is a great day to be a Chicago Bears fan. Revel in it. We don't get a lot of them, so just drink it in. Drink it in. It's a great day. Try to just be happy. The Bears have Ben Johnson. Before we get too much into the weeds on that, though, I do want to thank each and every person for tuning in, watching the video. If you like the video, go ahead, drop right down there, hit the subscribe button, become part of the community, become part of the journey, and all the Bears coverage that we have coming this offseason with the draft, with the coaching staff coming into place with free agency. Hopefully the Bears make moves across all of those areas, and we will have it all covered right here on the Lindemann Show. And it's dawning on me, I have not introduced myself. I am Cody Lindemann. This is the Lindemann Show. Once again, thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe. Please, if you like the show, if you like the Bears, if you're happy Ben Johnson is the new head coach, please hit the like button. It is a great way to show support. And if you're happy the Bears are here, if you're happy Ben Johnson is here for the Bears, leave a comment in the comment section about why you're happy Ben Johnson is here. And if you're not happy, if you're one of the few people that I have not met yet that is not happy about the Ben Johnson hire, for sure, I want you to leave a comment. Let me know who you wanted as the Bears head coach, why you think Ben Johnson's not the guy. Or if I change your mind throughout the video, let me know I changed your mind and who you got off of and why you're now on the Ben Johnson train. All right, enough of that. Let's get back over into conversation about Ben Johnson. And the first thing I'm going to do talking about Ben Johnson is tell you about how he reminds me of the Cubs hire they made just last year. Cubs hired Craig Counsell, and he was one of the best manager candidates out there, right? And it's the same thing with the Bears. You're not going to get the best coach in baseball because they're locked down on your team. And you're not going to get the best coach in football because they're locked down on their team. Shanahan, McVay, they're not going anywhere. But the best coach that was available, you got him. You got him in Chicago with your team. It feels great that this is all of Chicago. It's not half of Chicago celebrating now. All of Chicago seems to be happy that Ben Johnson is with the Bears, and it's hard to see why anyone would not be happy. Ben Johnson seemed like the obvious hire when the coaching cycle started. You know, the day Matt Eberflus was fired, people were already calling for Ben Johnson. The day is here. The Bears did it. I personally can't believe it. I can't believe he's here. I'm still in shock. So if you just hear me say Ben Johnson is the Bears head coach over and over again, I'm just trying to comprehend and understand the Bears actually got it done. Because I thought there was no way the Bears would come through and get it done. But they did. Enough of that. I'm trying to get over the shock, so bear with me. Another thing I want to say that just talks about how big Ben Johnson is of a get, how big of a hire that is I heard from a Detroit reporter about how upset Detroit fans are. And it seems like a trivial thing, but it speaks to the fact that this was the best coaching candidate available. Detroit fans are fired up. They are really mad Ben Johnson's gone. I think he even said that they're calling him Benedict Johnson, right? Something like that. And the point is that the Bears made the most obvious hire. It seems like something they never do, right? Think about the last time that an opposing team was mad that the Bears got their coach. Was Kansas City super upset when Matt Nagy left? Not really. I mean, there's always going to be a little, like, oh, we lost a coach. How's it going to affect our team? Chiefs didn't suffer at all. Matt Eberflus, people didn't seem too upset. He's a decent defensive coordinator, but Colts fans seem to get over it. think even further back. Mark Trestman wasn't even in the NFL. I don't know how upset the Canadian football fans were that they lost their coach, but I can tell you after they watched him with the Bears, probably not super upset. John Fox. I mean, he did some good things with the Broncos, I believe. I think he took the Broncos to a Super Bowl. But he came here and failed in 2 years. No, like there was just no hire where it seemed like such an obvious answer, and where you could see that an opposing fan base was so upset because they lost their guy, and the Bears got their guy, right? I mean, think back to Lovie Smith. I don't remember when he was hired. I was too young. So for my entire lifetime, this is the most exciting hire the Bears have ever made at head coach. And you can see it not just with the response of Bears fans, but with the response of Detroit Lions fans. And that speaks to how big of a hire it is to me personally. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is how fast the Bears moved. Because that's what really impresses me about this situation from the Bears' end. All right, they got Ben Johnson. Super impressive because I didn't think they were going to be able to do it. And then when you hear the story of how it happened, how they got Ben Johnson here, a little bit of the timeline. The timeline is not super clear, but it also is so short that there wasn't a lot that could have possibly happened. If you go back just a couple videos on the channel, you will see me saying the Bears are having a bad operation in this head coaching search. They have Ryan Poles on a 1-year deal. And he's going to go hire the next head coach. And he could possibly not be here in a year. And that's what we know of public knowledge, right? Maybe the Bears have extended him. Maybe the reporting on the contract wasn't right and he has several years left. That could all have happened behind closed doors. That could not be a problem. But from the public knowledge we have, Ryan Poles has 1 year left on his contract and just hired a head coach for the Chicago Bears. I stand by the idea that that's bad operation. It's bad alignment. The head coach could be working with a new GM next year. That's bad operation. Now, the Bears got what I think is the best outcome, and I think that's very lucky. A lot of times, if you have bad operation, you have a bad outcome. Now, the Bears had what I believe is bad operation, but with the best outcome. And sometimes it happens, and I'm very glad that that's what appears to have happened here. But now, after saying the Bears have bad operation, I want to praise them a little bit. Because if you got Ben Johnson, you did something right. Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, all great things, all things you've done right. But just in the hiring of Ben Johnson alone, what did you do right? And I don't have all the answers. But one thing they did right is they moved really fast. Ben Johnson, the most sought-after candidate after Vrabel, perhaps maybe more sought after, maybe a little bit. But Ben Johnson, after Vrabel's off the board, most definitely the most sought after. So you have to move fast, right? Lions lost in heartbreaking fashion to the Commanders Saturday night. Now, it's my understanding that there's a 24-hour rule. You have to wait 24 hours after a team is eliminated and the season ends before you can contact a coach about an interview or negotiating a contract. Whatever it may be, you have to wait 24 hours. So the Bears did that. And even if you don't have to wait 24 hours, I can't imagine like losing a game, right? Imagine you're Ben Johnson and your offense just had, your team as a whole just had the worst game of the year, and it got you eliminated in the first round, right? Like imagine that, and then imagine you go into the locker room and like you're driving home and you get a phone call from someone to interview. It feels like bad manners maybe. I just can't imagine that. It seems like it'd be really hard, and I'm sure it's hard to move on so far after. But calling within 24 hours just seems like it would be brutal anyway. So even if the rule's not there, which it sounds like it is, I'm glad the Bears waited. From the sounds of it, Monday morning they started negotiations with Ben Johnson's agent And by Monday afternoon, they had come to an agreement, and Ben Johnson was coming to the Bears. So why I think that's so impressive is A, Bears got in and started negotiating as soon as possible, and within a day they'd reached their agreement, which to me means they probably had a lot of agreement already on some contract issues, and the Bears were willing to pay a lot and were willing to meet a lot of demands of Ben Johnson's. But what's most impressive to me is Ben Johnson was never at Hallis Hall for an interview. Unless I'm missing something, it is my understanding that Ben Johnson never made it to Hallis Hall for an interview. And for the most part, he couldn't unless he showed up Monday, which he didn't, right? He showed up today on the day of filming, Tuesday, at Hallis Hall for the first time, which means he accepted the Bears head coaching job without ever stepping foot in Hallis Hall. The Bears did meet with him. It's not like they met him without meeting with him. They met him on the off week, on the bye week for the Detroit Lions during that first week of playoff games. They met him during that prep week, right? And they had a virtual interview. It could only be virtual, and it could be a maximum of 3 hours. I'm going to assume the Bears and Ben Johnson used up most of that time. But only 3 hour interview to be a head coach of the Chicago Bears. Obviously, this is not a normal job interview. A lot of the interview is, what have you done the past 3 years? What have you done in this division against the Lions? We've watched you, right? That's the interview process. And then the interview itself is more about, can he lead? Can he be a leader, right? And even if you're taking a chance as the Bears, he was still the obvious answer at head coach. To put all that aside, what I'm saying is I'm very impressed the Bears, Ryan Poles, Kevin Warren, anyone else who was involved in the interview was able to convince Ben Johnson to accept the Bears job in less than 3 hours, while they were also interviewing him virtually. He never met these people in person in the interview process, right? He probably met him before, maybe on the field before a game or in some other NFL setting, but never met them in person in the interview process. And the Bears still convinced him that Chicago was the best place for him, that Chicago could fix any of the issues they've had in the past, whatever it may be, whatever questions Ben Johnson had about the Bears. And he was clear that he had questions about the organizations, that they were going to have to prove to him that this was the place for him, that he had a potential there. I think he made that clear, and the Bears were able to do it in less than 3 hours virtually. That demands a tremendous amount of praise heaped on Ryan Poles and Kevin Warren, because evidently, Poles was in charge, so he deserves a ton of credit. What did Kevin Warren do, right? What did Kevin Warren do in the interview to convince Ben Johnson of this? I'm sure he was involved. He deserves a ton of credit. And anyone else involved also deserves credit for making this happen. It is very impressive to me. And once again, that does not mean I abandon my idea that this is bad operation to have 1 year left on your GM's contract. But the Bears got the guy, and that's what's important today. But in spite of that, I wonder what kind of impact this has. Ryan Poles has 1 year left on his deal. I've said that. It's clear. We've talked about it on the channel before. Ryan Poles has just made a tremendous move, right? He's made a couple, right? He's made a couple really good signings. He got DJ Moore. He signed him. He got Sweat, signed him. He signed Johnson. He extended Kmet. He probably pulled off one of the greatest trades in Chicago sports history. And boom, he has another big ticket. Look at what I've done here as the Bears GM. Huge, right? Now he just needs to put a team on the field, or really improve the trenches. Most of the team has a fair amount of skill, a fair amount of talent. He just needs to fill in the trenches. And this also gives Poles an opportunity to prove what he's already done. Last year, the Bears' leadership was so bad, the team fell apart so uncontrollably, so completely they fell apart. It's really hard for Ryan Poles to, and anyone else above Ryan Poles, to assess the roster he put together. How good is the talent? How well can they really play together if they're properly led, if they're properly coached? So this hiring gives Poles another opportunity to prove that he actually put together a really talented roster. He put them on the field, and they just weren't properly coached. Now, in all actuality, it was probably a mixture. The Bears roster probably wasn't as talented as we all suspected, as the 10-win, 9-win team we thought they were going to be. But they also were very poorly coached, and that is well documented. But now Ryan Poles, with 1 year left on his deal, has an ability to say, hey, look, I actually assembled a pretty good team. I picked the wrong coach that maybe he picked, maybe he didn't. I think he had more control than some people think in picking Matt Eberflus. But he's just made the most obvious selection at head coach now. And now he has another opportunity to prove that his team is good. He has another draft to improve the team. And I wonder if now that Ben Johnson is signed, and he seems to be okay with Ryan Poles as GM, at least for a year, if Ryan Poles now gets a contract extension so that you can line up the head coach and the GM. So in the coming weeks, I would look out and see if that comes, and if not, then I would start to get really worried about the future operation of the Bears. Okay, gonna take a quick break. Just once again, thank you all for tuning in, for viewing. Love to see you guys come in and watch this coverage on the Chicago Bears. Love to produce the content for you. If you like the content and you want to stay up to date on all the Bears' future endeavors and their offseason and heading into next season, make sure you go down, hit the subscribe button right down below my face. If you are happy Ben Johnson's here, make sure you hit the like button and show that you are happy that he is the head coach for the Chicago Bears, and leave a comment. Are these things that you considered? What do you think effect this has on Ryan Poles? If you didn't want Ben Johnson, once again, tell me who you wanted. Have I changed your mind yet? So go leave a comment down in the comment section. Let me know what you think about the hiring of Ben Johnson. All right. Now let's move on. Moving on forward. How much credit does Warren deserve? I know we just talked about this, but I want to bring it up again. How much credit does Warren deserve? Sorry, getting a little parched here. Kevin Warren was in those meetings. It looked like he was leading the head coaching search after they fired Matt Eberflus. And I think he needed to prove to Ben Johnson that the Bears front office culture was different. The Bears have a history of, just since George McCaskey has taken over, right? They've had so many quarterbacks. They've had so many GMs. They've had so many head coaches. And it was all under one president. His name escapes me right now, but he was the president of Bears business for 20 years or something insane like that. And now Kevin Warren's here, and he's tasked with building a stadium, yes, but also reshaping the culture. If you remember when he came in last year, he said he met with every single front office personnel. He interviewed every single one of them, and he's made multiple hires and made up new positions. And I think he had to, in that, once again, that short 3 hour meeting, prove to Ben Johnson that things are different under Ryan Poles. The Bears are different. They're a new organization. They follow the current trends. They know the past mistakes they made, and they won't make them again, right? Excuse me. Sorry about that. But Ryan Poles had to prove that all that stuff had changed. All that stuff was different. And I think that's a difficult sell just in general. But to do it in a 3 hour meeting is really, truly impressive, along with addressing all the other actual football aspects that needed to be talked about during a quick 3 hour meeting. So I think, yes, I already said Ryan Poles deserves credit. But how much more credit, how much convincing did he have to do with Ben Johnson to say, hey, look, we've really changed things. This is not the same old Bears. This is not the same old operation. Things are different. And I wonder, moving on to my next subject, how much roster control Ben Johnson has. I know there's a big point of speculation throughout the hiring process. Does Ben Johnson want his own GM? How much roster control will he want? Will Ryan Poles be willing to give that up if he wants a lot of roster control? And I wonder what really agreement they came to, right? How much stock does Ben Johnson have? And how much does his opinion matter in the draft room? How much does it matter in free agency? How much does it matter about current personnel that he's going to keep around or get rid of, right? That's all questions that I think are relevant, and maybe we'll get some evidence over time, but I don't think will ever be answered. But I think what is true is the hiring of Ben Johnson makes the Bears an exciting possibility for free agents, let's say. Who on the offensive side of the ball would get a call from the Bears and say, you know what, Ben Johnson, I don't know if I want to go run plays for him, right? Now last year I think that would have happened, right? You get a call from the Bears and free agency like, Shane Waldron, I'm not sure I want to go run plays in his offense. I'm not sure I want to go play for him or be coached by him, right? I mean, just look at Jackson Smith-Njigba, right? He had that like iconic line when he was asked in an interview about Shane Waldron. He goes, "Is this live?" And then he says some really random football-y line. Oh yeah, Shane Waldron's a great guy or whatever, right? But you could tell, right, that he was like, ooh, Shane Waldron, he's not the greatest, right? But now compare that to Ben Johnson. Who would not want to play for one of the most statistically successful offensive coordinators and now head coach, who I assume will be calling plays? Who wouldn't want to go work for that man as an offensive player? It's hard to believe that anyone would not want to go work for him. Sorry about that. Got a frog in my throat. But it's really hard to believe that free agencies won't now flock to the Bears. And I think that's reasonable, right? When you look at the success that Ben Johnson's had, I think it's reasonable that a lot of people want to come work for him. I think you're going to get the same thing with the draft. Now, the draft, the players don't have as much options, obviously, but I think players are going to be way more excited to come and play for the Bears. I know there's a lot of talk about how Caleb Williams should, hold out or should try to go to a different team, right? None of that's going to happen. Like that's all in the past. That's all the old Bears now that Ben Johnson is here. That's all stuff that we don't have to worry about anymore. Like, you don't have to have the national disrespect and the national media being like, oh, you don't want to go to the Bears because their offense is terrible. Like, it might not be good. I'm not saying it will be. But the Bears found the head coach that made the most sense. And in 2 years, if the Bears are bad again, they still made the right call. It just didn't work out, right? Like, they didn't hire the right guy. But the right decision was to hire the best guy. And the best guy was obviously Ben Johnson. We did talk about his contract earlier. I just want to make a note that the reports I've seen is that it's 5 years with an annual payout of $14.5 million per year. So the Bears definitely were willing to spend to get a top-tier head coach. Love to see that. I know that money doesn't come out of the salary cap. So the Bears being willing to spend money is really just a willingness to spend money. It doesn't really affect anything. I do want to just have a couple negative thoughts. I know you shouldn't even conceptualize it on this day, on this great day to be a Bears fan. This great week, really. But it is important to talk about. So I want to do that here. I'm tired of hearing the phrase, the Bears have won the offseason. Or, we won the offseason. That's great. We won the offseason last year. It's great to win the offseason. But I'm tired of it. I want to win on the field. The Bears won the offseason, which was like a great 6 months they won, or however long you want to call the offseason. It was a great, super successful winning offseason. And then they won 5 games. That is terrible. I'm tired of hearing the Bears have won the offseason. I don't care anymore. Win on the field. Wanted to get that off my chest. And once again, like I said, if everything goes bad, and in 5 years we're talking about how we're looking for another head coach, I know it's a terrible place to go, especially on this super exciting day. But if that happens, you can still go, oh, the Bears made the most obvious hiring choice. And they made the right call. It was the right decision. Wrong guy. They hired the wrong guy because obviously it didn't work out. But they made the right decision. And I think that's an important distinction to make. Finally, I want to address the title of the video. Is hiring Ben Johnson the start to a perfect offseason for the Bears? Yes. The answer is yes, right? Is it a yes or no question? Yes, it is. Think about after week 18. If you walk into Hallis Hall after you beat the Green Bay Packers, oh, big win, but now the offseason's here. Now you're in the offseason, whatever. The offseason's here. You go in there and you pull up, you pull out your expo marker and you write on the whiteboard, or you have a poster board and you say, all right, here's what a successful offseason for the Chicago Bears looks like. The Detroit Lions get their bye, and we get to interview both their coordinators. And we pull out some other interviews along the way. We comply with the Rooney Rule. And then the Detroit Lions lose their first game of the playoffs. And after they lose the first game of the playoffs, we hire Ben Johnson. That's the perfect start to the offseason for the Chicago Bears. If I think if they had a poster board and they had their ideal, this is the perfect start to the offseason, that's what they would put. They would talk about that. They'd say, yes, that is absolutely perfect. You know what happened? The Detroit Lions lost in their first playoff game, and the Bears hired Ben Johnson the Monday after. So now they have an extra 3 weeks or 4 weeks with Ben Johnson at the helm, have more time, and they hired the best coaching candidate possible. Chicago Bears fans, be happy. Have a week of just joy and bliss. You hired the best head coach possible. Ben Johnson will be leading the offense for the Chicago Bears, hopefully for the next 5 years and many, many years after, teaming up with Caleb Williams. That is going to wrap it up for me. Until next time, for the Lindemann Show, I am Cody Lindemann, signing off.